That's my chair. Maybe she wants to do a book review. Hi guys, this is Rosa Kelly, and today I'm here to talk about all the books that I read on April. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I read on April. Super proud of myself because I have read more books this month than I did the whole year so far. So that's always a good thing. So I hope that you guys are inspired and motivated to get a little bit more reading into your life as well. So the first book that I read, if you watch my April TBR, is actually one that I had as an optional read, as an additional read after I finished my whole list, but it was actually the first one that I read and I fell absolutely in love with the story. This is the Song of Achilles, and this book is by Madeline and Miller. I did talk about this on my quarterly wrap up because I finished this at the very beginning of April, and it really took me like 2 or 3 days to get through the whole book, and I was just obsessed with it. It is such a beautiful, amazing story. This book talks about the life of Achilles, and this is told by Patroclus. Patroclus was his companionship, and he was actually also a prince, but he was sent to exile by his father, and that's how he ends up meeting Achilles, and they start training together and they kind of grow up together. And you can see throughout the book the story of their lives and kind of how they start to develop feelings towards each other. However, they have to face so many different life events, and then they end up going to war together. So it is just a beautiful testament of their friendship, their love for each other, their loyalty. It also talks a lot about destiny and glory, and so it is an amazing read. For me, it was a 5 out of 5, and right after I finished the book, I just wanted to read it over again. It's just that amazing. So many beautiful quotes. I highly recommend the audiobook as well because it's just the way that they kind of narrate it. It just makes you fall in love. So amazing. After that, the next book that I read was The Girl Who Drank the Moon. I kind of was reading those two at the same time together. So this book is by Kelly Barnhill, and another beautiful magical story. So this is probably one of the first middle grade books that I read in a really long time. So this really has me wanting to read more middle grade books. So now I'm incorporating more middle grade into my reading. So this book was really magical, but also the story behind it was a little bit dark. So I really like how the author played with that in a way that it is still middle grade, but it's still so interesting, and anyone will love this book. I also did have the audiobook for this, which just made me fall in love with the little characters, their voices, their innocence, the magic, and also the dark behind it. So this book talks about the story of Luna. So Luna is a girl who was offered to this witch. So on the town that she lives, there is this sense that there is a witch, and so every year they have to do an offering, and this offering is the newest baby from the whole town. So the youngest baby is the one that has to be offered, and so if they don't do this offering, they fear that the witch will come and do something bad to the town. So Luna is one of the girls that is offered to the witch. However, the witch has no idea this is happening, and she's always wondering why are all these babies left in the woods. And so she takes the babies and tries to find a home for the babies, but not on the village, but on a different town. However, she falls in love with Luna. She accidentally gives Luna a little bit of moon, and Luna starts developing magical powers. So throughout the book, you can see how she starts to play with her magic and all the trouble that she gets to, which is so sweet, so magical. And then there is also a mystery. Is it really the witch who is originating all these sacrifices for these babies, or is there something behind it? And the plot just keeps you wanting for more. There's a lot of like twist and things that for me I was not expecting going into this book. But again, I absolutely recommend this. This for me was a 5 out of 5, and you have to read this book. It is just so beautiful. So another book that I read on April is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. So this book talks about this flu that basically wipes down the whole population, and there are some people left. So out of the people left, you can see that some are trying to bring joy to the world, and some other people are just trying to take advantage and create this new horrible society. I like the way this book was narrated. So you basically see some episodes on the present, and then you see some episodes 5 years from when the pandemic happened, 15 years from when it happened. Basic necessities like the electric company, the internet, all of that is gone. There is no gas, so they kind of have to, you know, go back to primitive ways like horses. And so it's really, really interesting. It makes you think a lot. It really makes you think about what will happen if all of that is gone. How will you survive? How will you get adjusted? And it also makes you see the other side, like basically people who was born after all this happened, and for them this is normal because they have nothing to miss. So you can see how the people who live through this has a lot of nostalgic feelings about the old world, and then the people who basically came after the pandemic, they really don't have any of that to miss. So it has a lot of different views, and I really enjoyed the book. Yeah, a really interesting read. I'm gonna give this book a 4.5 out of 5 just because there was a part of this book that I didn't quite get. So there is this science fiction comic book that was written by one of the characters, and somehow that becomes really important on the story. But however, it's a little bit confusing. I personally think that I could have done, the book could have been fine without it. So maybe there's something that I'm missing, but I definitely want to give this book a reread. So I think the second time around will be even better. So another book that I read on April was The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. So this book was another amazing book. I think I was pretty lucky this month with my selection because I truly enjoy all the books quite a lot. So this book talks about the story of this lady. So she basically doesn't find any sense out of her life, and she doesn't feel that she brings anything to anyone, and so she decides to commit suicide. After she does that, she wakes up on this library that is full of books. All of these books on this library are parts of her life that she didn't live. So basically, when you make a decision in your life, your path kind of starts switching. All of the books are her different life possibilities, all of the things that she could have done if she would have made different decisions. So she has the opportunity to explore and to see if she can find a life that will make her happy. This really makes you think about your own life. Like, if I would have made this decision, would I be here now? How my life would have switched? But I highly recommend this book for you to read. For me, it was a 5 out of 5 because I really connected to the character. It really made me dream about these different life possibilities. The ending for me was unexpected, which I always enjoy and appreciate. I really, really like the way things turned out in this book. So I can't wait for you guys to read it and let me know what you think about this book. Another book that I read this month is The House of Salt and Sorrows, and this is by Erin Craig. This is a young adult mystery slash fairy tale novel, and I quite enjoyed this. I think this was a really nice introductory to a little bit of a fantasy for me because it had that fantasy and mystery elements combined, and I quite enjoyed this book. So this is a retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses, but on this retelling, 12 sisters, and they mysteriously start to die. So it is said that the family is cursed, but one of the sisters actually thinks there's something else behind it, and so she is on a mission to discover why her sisters are dying and disappearing. So yes, it makes you suspect of everyone. So I think what I loved the most about this book was picturing all these beautiful house, the dresses, the magic, the fairy tale part of it, and then having that mystery twist that it actually makes you fear a little bit about what's happening. Read this book, you're really gonna enjoy it. I also had the audiobook going at the same time. I was able to find it on my library, so that was again, another, I think once you find the audiobook, and it really depends on how the book is narrated, it could just make your experience 10 times better. Highly recommend for you to read this one also. So the next book that I read is When No One's Watching, and this is by Elisa Cole. So this is actually a book that I borrowed from the library, and I had it as an audiobook. I highly suggest you visit your local library and get the app and then start borrowing some books. It's super easy, it's free, and you find amazing books in there as well. The book talks about this girl and this conspiracy theory on this neighborhood in Brooklyn. So basically she's lived there her whole life, and then she starts to see that new people are moving into the neighborhood. So then she starts suspecting, why are people who lived there their whole life, why would they want to move? And so she discovers that there is something more sinister happening behind it. I don't want to say more about that, but this book had me on the edge of my chair. This book is gonna make you angry. It's gonna make you want more. It's gonna make you see what is actually going on in this neighborhood. I love the plot twist at the end, and so again, I highly recommend this book. For me, this was probably a 4 out of 5. I think it was an amazing psychological thriller. It does make you think. It does make you like have that tense like a moment of what is gonna happen. So another series of books that I listened to on audiobook was the Cassandra Clare Bone Chronicles collection, or Bone Chronicles series. So there are 11 books, however I only listened to 3 of them, and the one that I liked the most was the first one, which is called What Really Happened in Peru. So of course, you know, I am from Peru, and a lot of the things that she talks about, the food, the culture, the different languages that we have within Peru. So I could definitely tell that she was either there or made a really good research. So this book talks about, it's basically the beginning of the Shadowhunter series. So this is like the very, very, very beginnings of it. Talks about how the Shadowhunters start to kind of gain their powers. Yeah, I don't want to say more. It is a really short, like 2-hour long audiobook, so I highly recommend you borrow it and you read it. I loved it. So then the last book that I read for this month was The Secret of Nightingale Wood, and this is by Lucy Strange, I believe is her name. I have it here on the screen. So this was a middle grade book. So this book talks about this little girl who is facing a lot of difficult situations for her age. Her mother has gone really sick, and she's basically not allowed to see her mother, so she's left with the nanny, and the dad has traveled for work, and then she's starting to discover some secrets in the family. It was very heartbreaking, but then you also see a little bit of how she's trying to cope with all of these. She's always trying to sound more adult, so she kind of starts seeing her thinking behind it, like, if I say this, I'm gonna sound too childish, so I really need to be listened to, so I need to speak like an adult will speak. So you can see all of that mentality behind her, because she was really trying really hard to keep her family together. But it is a beautiful story. It was a little bit sad, but it also fills you with joy and hope. And so yeah, I love that book. So I hope that you guys enjoy the little review of the books that I read this month. Let me know what books you're reading right now. I think overall I enjoy each one of the books. I hope that you guys had a wonderful reading month as well. Let me know which one of these books you have read, or if you're interested on giving any of these ones a go. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.